Greetings, fellow scribes! Welcome back to the archive. So, when I was getting ready to edit this video, it ended up that the video was going to be almost an hour long. So I decided I'm going to split this up. The previous video of these two videos covers Core Earth, Isle, the Cyber Papacy, and the Living Land. This video covers the Nile Empire, Tharkold, Orrorsh, and Pan-Pacifica. I hope you enjoy both videos, and sit back, relax, and enjoy as I complete this two-parter in 1 week. What to say about the Nile Empire? Of course, we're in the area around Egypt and North Africa. The Nile Empire is fairly mid to upper range in social control and tech. A little bit above Earth in terms of magic. And on a par with the Cyber Papacy in terms of spirit. But what makes it interesting is this is a world of pulp action heroes and villains. It is led by the High Lord, Pharaoh Dr. Mobius. And on one hand, his entrance was a huge procession of ancient Egyptian-style troops, armed with 1930s and 40s weaponry. He has gas bombs that he can deploy that will stop modern tech in its tracks, so that only stuff that matches his era will work. And this, as I said, is a world of pulp action heroes. In fact, the first of the world laws is the law of heroism. And that boils down to, heroes escape death, stand up to villains, overcome seemingly impossible odds. And the bigger, the more impressive that they try to do, the better. And the interesting mechanic is that you increase your destiny card hand size when in this world, because those destiny cards are heroic. Of course, the next of the laws is the law of action. And this is, you don't just fight the villain. You fight the villain on the top of a train that's on fire, and your sidekick is tied to the rails ahead of you. Things get big, things get flashy, things go over the top. You could almost say that this law is the rule of cool isn't a rule, it's the law. Because the world itself forces crazy over-the-top stuff to happen. And finally, there's the law of drama. And the law of drama is two parts. First off, emotions are high. You know, people don't just get a crush on a railway station. It's they meet at the railway station, they fall in love, they have a passionate affair, and whirlwind, married in a couple months type reactions. But at the same time, of course, there's the enmities between the hero and the villains. Those are flashed and amplified to the point where truly neither will let the other live if they can help it. But at the same time, they won't ever actually kill each other because there's no drama in that. If you're fighting a villain on a boat and you think you've scored the final blow, he'll fall into the Nile. As you defeat the villain in his secret lair, it will start blowing up and you won't see his body as falling debris obscures the view. And then, a few weeks later, the villain comes back. Of course, this applies to heroes as well, although to a lesser extent. And it basically boils down to there is a Cosm card, Inevitable Return, that will let a hero come back. And of course, though, this creates drama, creates action and adventure. And that's the Nile Empire. Big, bold, over the top. Which makes going up to Russia really sad. Up in Russia is the area called Tharkold. Now, at the start of the Possibility Wars, when the first Maelstrom Bridge arrived in Moscow, it was nuked, and it was brought down. And the radiation drifted to the north and west, creating an area called the Blasted Lands, as the fallout descended on that area. But further incursions came in. And Tharkold is... Tharkold is best described as cybernetic horror. Its tech axiom is just below the cyber papacy. Its social axiom is probably one of the highest. Spirit is low, magic is just above core Earth. But here's the thing. Tharkold is a world where demons with demonic cybernetic augmentations rule. And that's the easiest way to describe it. Now, yes, there are humans there. Many of them have explosive collars. And a lot of them get sent into the Blasted Lands looking for stuff that got left there. But you are still dealing with a world that is brutal and vicious because it is ruled by demons and those who bend knee to demons. And these are reflected in the world laws. The first is the law of pain. You are dealing with a world where there is stuff called vril or agonite. This is the distilled, crystallized suffering. Literally. And it's used as fuel. If you inflict pain, there is palpable energy that can be drawn from the target. And the alternate way of looking at the law of pain is do unto others before they do unto you. And the occult tech that's used here, the cybernetic implants, they draw their power by keeping the person who's implanted with them in a constant degree of pain. Of course, there's the law of ferocity. And it's that the techno-demons, humans that are in their service, thrive on being short-tempered, brutish, zealously suspicious. And beings from Tharkold aren't subtle. Ruthless, murderously effective is the way it is described in the core book. In essence, why take a scalpel to cut off that finger when we can just take a chainsaw and cut off the hand? Type way of dealing with things. Might not be the most efficient, but it will get the job done. Will get the job done brutally. Finally is the law of domination. And this basically boils down to there's always a bigger fish. Bow down to that bigger fish. There's always someone better, stronger than you. Obey them. You want to get out of someone's thrall? Beat them down. Become stronger than them and just seize their power. Put them under your thrall. And that is Tharkold. Now that we've covered Europe and the Middle East, let's turn our attention back towards Asia. We now come to the last two of the Cosms. The first of these being Orrorsh. This realm is located mostly in India. There have been attempts to branch out into Australia and some other areas, but it is mostly India. This is an area of Victorian horror. This is the Gaunt Man's personal realm. And the thing you have to remember here is this is like 1800s tech levels. Spirit is, again, about what you would see in the cyber papacy. Social is about what you would see in the cyber papacy. Magic is sort of a little bit above the average of all the other realms. So this is overall, with its axioms being 16s and 18s, when the highest realms for each of the various types are in the 24s to 25s. This is sort of the mid-range zone of everything. The mythical averages, you could say. But what makes Orrorsh dangerous is that it's a horror realm. Things come out at night. And there is this faction that of good guys, more or less, that are the Victorian army. As in, literally, Victorian British during this period in India. So they have the pith helmets, the light brown, light khaki uniforms, all that stuff that you would expect. And the Storm Knights of this realm have access to some unique things that aren't really available in other realms. Like bullet smithing. There are those who hunt supernatural threats. And they have a special gun called the Slayer gun. And Slayer guns, they make bullets specifically for that gun that are geared towards dealing with specific types of threats. And, if you've ever seen any of the old Hammer horror movies, these people, these bullet smiths, look an awful lot like the Peter Cushing von Helsing. Because that's sort of what they specialize in doing. Now, there are many things in Orrorsh that are dangerous. But the worst, and because it's so common, are these things called gospogs. These are planted over where there's a lot of corpses. And they are basically plant zombies. The Victorians came in from maelstrom bridges in Kolkata and Mumbai. The third bridge exists, but no one's ever come over that bridge. And it's basically the Victorians were much needed help, but one of the issues was that one of their generals at one point was uncovered to be one of the Gaunt Man's inner circle of advisors. So they're not entirely to be trusted. Of course, you then come into the world laws of Orrorsh. The first of these is the law of eternal corruption. And this basically is that the people in Orrorsh are easy to turn. A man or woman with a broken heart might turn their throat to let vampires turn them. Or similar things like that. And there are perks and situations that will pop up that will grant you a bonus if you just take a little bit of corruption. And it's basically that your spirit remains unfazed, but self-confidence and appearance betray the truth. Each time charisma is reduced, and that's the thing, when you take a point of corruption, you make a willpower or spirit test. And if you fail, you lose a point of charisma. And each time your charisma is reduced, you gain a telling physical trait of some sort. A blemish that never fades, an angry facial tic, a strange white streak of hair. And if your charisma ever drops below 5, you fall with the GM control. Of course, then there's the law of fear. And it's basically in Orrorsh, a terrible death is always nearby. And everyone knows that not only are they going to die eventually, but it's probably not going to be of old age. It's going to be something vicious and unpleasant. And there are a number of Cosm cards that just amplify this and are boosted by this law. But there's the simple fact that the law of perseverance exists. Yes, evil, fear, and monsters exist. They are around every corner. But you can't win if you fall down. And while the Gaunt Man wrenched control over his domain from those who resisted him until death, there's still that sliver of light in the world. That sliver of hope. And the law of perseverance means that heroes can endure, can persevere, can eventually triumph. And it kind of has some effects on the mechanics, because the Gaunt Man did reduce some effects. But this law of perseverance means the effects that the Gaunt Man tried to reduce, he wasn't successful. One of the biggest of these was soaking. A standard success when soaking negates the shock from an attack, but doesn't negate a wound. You have to get a good success to negate a wound. While normally it's you just have to get a standard success to negate the wound. And now we come to the last of the 8 great Cosms. Pan-Pacifica. This is a world high in tech, high in social control, low in magic, low in spirit. This is a world of a cyberpunk dystopia. There are, of course, the Jiangshi issue, which are some form of zombie. But they're effectively dealt with. They have served their purpose. They're also tech-based, not magic-based. Think Resident Evil. But the Canal Corporation, at least the Pan-Pacifica, is ruled by the Canal Corporation. This is a world where triads and yakuza will end up fighting side by side with electric samurai, who basically use monomolecular edge swords and high-tech armors and fast motorcycles in much the same way a traditional samurai use their armor, horse, and swords. And these are people fighting to undermine and bring down the Canal Corporation. But from there, you also have the world laws. The law of intrigue. And this is basically that Kanawa seemed like a model for everyone else in the world. It showed how to fight and deal with the Jiangshi. It sells the high-tech devices to people so they can deal with it. But nothing is ever what it seems. The citizenry reports suspicious signs to the corporation or the authorities. And it's sort of hush-hush espionage type stuff all going on. Of course, the law of vengeance. Look, backstabbing is commonplace in any sort of corporate controlled environment. The law of vengeance is an unexpected Cosm law. And it basically boils down to, if you betray someone, vengeance will be served. It might be served cold. It might result in a brutal bloodbath. But vengeance will come about. And finally is the law of tenacity. And in short, this is, you are still dealing with a Japanese, Chinese, North and South Korean based culture. And this is still a culture where heroes tend to get back up. And so when a reality rated character, a Storm Knight or someone who's serving the High Lord and has a reality rating, goes down and should be killed, they have a chance to stand back up, to take some negatives, but keep going. And if they were going to absolutely die, having taken their last possible wound, they still get one last action, one last full turn before their actual final death. And that is the brief overview of the Cosms of Torg Eternity. I realize this is going to be a very long video, and I thank you for sticking with this all the way through. Next week, I'm going to talk about the systems and mechanics of Torg Eternity. So until then, I'd like you all to remember to have fun and keep gaming.